Welcome to West Virginia Beer Roads, a podcast all about beer from a West Virginia perspective. I'm Erin McCoy, here with my podcast partner, Charles Backway.
Today, West Virginia Beer Roads travels to a brand new brewery in Charleston, West Virginia. And that would be the Ursus Brew Works, which just opened this week. Erin, it's not often we get to help introduce a new small brewing operation here in Charleston, West Virginia.
Right, and it's been a couple of years since we've had a new one open. But hey, there's certainly room for one more. So let's get right to our guest, and that is Jason Martin, who is founder, owner, and brewer at Ursus Brew Works. Jason, welcome to West Virginia Beer Roads.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, Jason, when I first talked to you probably a year ago, you told me that while you weren't raised here in Charleston, West Virginia, that you had a family connection to Charleston. So I was curious about that. And tell me a little more about your childhood and your family and when you were growing up and about that West Virginia connection.
Yeah, absolutely. My mom and dad went to Nitro High School. And then once they graduated, they got married. My dad got a job in Florida. He moved to Florida. That's where I was born and raised. But all my family going back probably 200 years has been in and around the Charleston area here in West Virginia. Great-grandparents were out in Beckley, and my great-great-grandparents were also in the Beckley, Mount Hope area. And then I have cousins, aunts, and uncles, grandparents in the Cross Lanes and Winfield area.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, sounds like you spent quite a lot of time growing up or in and around West Virginia.
Absolutely. Summer vacations, winter breaks. I used to go down to the mall here in Charleston and sit on Santa's lap.
That's fun. Nice, though.
Yeah, it is nice. So where did you end up growing up, and what was it like where you were?
Well, I grew up in Central Florida, right outside Orlando, so it was hot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually finally becoming a pretty decent beer market.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Took a while. They weren't the first to really adopt
There's
craft
literally
brewing.
a craft brew place across the street from the high school I went to.
Hey, gotta love that.
Yep. I've been there a couple of times. It's actually pretty decent.
So when did you first develop an interest yourself in brewing beer?
So prior to my interest in brewing beer, it was an interest in drinking beer. There's literally a picture of me sitting on my grandmother's shoulder. She has a giant beehive haircut that was at least 20 years out of date by then. Yeah. And I'm holding assuming an empty Miller Lite can, and sitting on her shoulders. And it looks like I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, who knows what. But it's an old photograph that I still have. And of course, fast forward to I joined the military right out of high school. And what do you do when you're in the military? Well, you learn two things. You learn how to fight and you learn how to drink. And so, I developed a palate for beer, if you will, Bud Light, Miller Lite, all the main domestics.
Yeah, we've been there.
Yeah, everyone goes through that phase, correct. And but after that, after I got out of the military, I met my partner Megan, and she introduced me to craft beer, and she created a monster.
All right, thank you, Megan.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And so I started drinking craft beer and fell in love with it. And her grandfather bought me a Mr. Beer kit for my birthday one year, and I made some really terrible beer with it, but I thought it was I thought it was the most fun thing, seeing the bubbles and all that going on, and just drinking something that I made. So I just went down a rabbit hole. I started buying books, reading books. I started off with extract kits, and then graduated to home brewing with all grain, and eventually got to a point where Megan said, if we want to open a brewery, you have to get professional brewing experience.
So you got your start in commercial brewing in the Washington, D.C. metro area, and there's literally a ton of small breweries over there. How did you get your first job at the brewery? There's got to be a story there.
Oh, absolutely. So I was home brewing for probably 8 years, and had a pretty good reputation with friends and family of making some decent beer, at least for a home brewer. And I started bringing that beer to an owner of a small brewery in Crofton, Maryland. His name is John. He owns a place called Chesapeake Real Ale Brewery in Crofton, Maryland. Me and him would sit there and drink my homebrew beer, and we would talk beer for over the course of about 2 years. Finally, I decided to make the jump to try to be a professional brewer, and I said, hey, John, I want to learn how to brew beer. You have a brewery. I was expecting to be a beer tender and just help him brew beer on the side. And he said, I need a brewer. He says, I'll give you 90 days. If you pick it up, great. If not, I got to let you go. Within 6 weeks, I was brewing the beer by myself.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
So tell us a little bit more about your brewing responsibilities at the brewery.
It was a very small brewery, a 1-barrel system, but we had 12 tanks, and we would brew 2 beers simultaneously on a brew day with 2 brew days a week. So my experience, or my responsibilities rather, were pretty much everything. It was a one-man operation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So no wonder you learned so quickly. When did you get to lead a brewing session for your first beer that went on the brewery's taps, and what was that beer?
So John trusted me to brew one of my homebrew beers eventually, and it was my smoked Scotch ale. And so that was the first beer that I brewed that was my homebrew recipe that went on tap, and it was a pretty big hit. Most people don't like smoked beers, but this beer has converted non-beer drinkers into beer drinkers with some of my friends and family. It's one I'm very proud of, and it went on tap. We even had a barrel-aged version of it, which I love barrel-aged beers as well. It was a great hit. Everyone loved it, and that really made me feel pretty confident as a brewer after that.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, what were some of the most important lessons that you learned in your first stint? In other words, working at that commercial brewery, your first real commercial go-round.
So as a home brewer, you're brewing for yourself and your friends, and you kind of have your own process down. It's usually just in your kitchen or your garage or a backyard or a patio. With commercial brewing, the demand is far more intense. That's all you do. It's not a hobby anymore. It's a job. And so making that mental conversion took a little bit of time. It's something that I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do, but doing the same thing every single day. You get into a rhythm, of course, but Monday was keg cleaning day. Tuesday was a brew day. Wednesday was kegging, carbing, cleaning. Thursday was a brew day. Friday was kegging, carbing, cleaning. And it wash, rinse, repeat over and over over again. And just having to be completely meticulous at every single step, because brewing, you have to be extremely clean.
Stay on schedule.
And stay on schedule, because the owner would project events out, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months out. And you had to make sure that you were staying on top of the brew schedule, which means keeping track of your grain, make sure you're not going to run out of grain, keeping track of your hops and your yeast to make sure you have all these ingredients ready, projected for the next couple of months. So you can make sure you stay on schedule for these events, and to also make sure that the seasonal beers are coming out when they're supposed to for the public. And so you're really mentally projecting out 2 to 3 months. And that was it took a little bit of training for me, because it's not just what I want to do this weekend.
Right, some organizational
Exactly.
planning.
Yeah,
planning
exactly.
is a big deal at any brewery, and certainly should be a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just making sure that everything is spotless when you clean. You can't go back and redo it. As the home brewer, if a batch turns out not so good, it's fine. Your friends will still drink it. Now you're talking dollars and cents,
Right.
So if a beer doesn't turn out great, then the boss man is going to be mad. And so, we at least when I was there, never had a problem. There were 2 beers we had to dump because the yeast was bad, but we got it bad and we didn't know it. But that was it. We churned out over 100 batches of beer a year without a problem.
Wow, and working at a small place like that, you really don't get much division of labor. You kind of have to do it all. If you're the brewer, you're doing
It was just
everything.
me. Yeah, correct. It was just me. It was a one-man operation back there.
That's amazing. Well, it's like trial by fire. I mean, you learn or you die. You aren't gonna. Yeah, but that's really cool. So Crofton, Maryland, right?
Correct.
Yeah, got some good beer while you were there, I guess. Huh?
Oh, I would hope so. Some of the regulars, I've gone back there since, and they say, "Man, we miss your beer."
Oh, that's
that makes
a
me feel
compliment.
pretty good. Yeah.
Sure.
Well, starting a new brewery today is probably I'm thinking maybe a bigger challenge than it was a decade ago. Like when you consider that we're in a time when craft beer sales nationally, they say have peaked, maybe declining a little bit. And we're in the Charleston market with a population that's not growing, maybe even declining still a little. There's also the fact that younger adults, they say, are trending to drink less beer today than they did a decade ago or 2 decades ago. So given all of that, and I don't mean to be negative on this, but given all those kind of things, those facts that we're hearing, my question is, why start a new brewery in Charleston now?
That's a great question. It seems like a terrible idea when you put it that way. But I did put quite a bit of thought into it. One, I wanted to be back where my family's at. I did not want to move back to Florida, but I also did not want to stay in the Washington, D.C. area. But I wanted to be near family. So Charleston was the spot. Fife Street was kind of a litmus test. Me and Megan came here and went to Fife Street when they first opened. They might have been open a few weeks when we went there. And I kept my eye on it for a little while and realized this is working.
Right.
Charleston is a beer drinking town. Awesome. I started coming out here and looking for a place and asking around saying, what do you like about this place? What do you not like about this place? And getting some feedback. And I also did a lot of research into why breweries were failing nationwide. And I literally went on Google. I had a spreadsheet where I had different categories, and I would kind of like do like a ranking system and all these kinds of things, and kind of did some rough statistics on it. And I try to limit as many of those factors as I could with this place. So one of the reasons that places were failing was they didn't own the building. And so when the lease was up in 10 years or however long the lease was, the rent got so much they couldn't afford it, or their landlord would just simply kick them out because they wanted something else.
You know, that's happened again and again. I know
Correct.
breweries where that has happened.
Yeah, so we bought the building.
Nice.
That alleviates that problem. Another problem was distribution. I did not want to get heavily into distribution because, one, your profit margin goes way down. It provides way more headache to me than it's worth, in my opinion. I wanted to be in-house only. So what does that mean? You have to have essentially a brew pub. It's not a brewery, it's a brew pub at this point. So with a brew pub, you have to have food. So I knew I had to have a killer kitchen, and I had to have a killer chef, and we do. Chef Donnie is the man. He is pumping out some great food. And so we ticked off a lot of these boxes of, let's not get in a saturated market with distribution. Let's keep it in-house so the profit margins are higher. Let's also do a mixed tap list where we have our beers along with other people's beers, because in this building, I could only fit a small system. We have a 3.5 barrel system. Given the ceiling height and the square footage that I could do for the brewery, I kind of took all of this into consideration, and I tried to limit as many of those existential factors that would cause failure as much as possible. Now, it still sounds like a terrible idea because restaurants are, by nature, not the most predictable markets, and half of all restaurants fail anyway.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah, and so I then thought, well, how can we limit that? One, provide a great atmosphere. Comfortable seats, great atmosphere, good decor, fair prices, good quality of food, great service. We have a great front of the house staff right now. And so I basically listened to people around town, and I'm still listening. As people, we've had a soft opening. We got plenty of feedback, and I've taken the criticisms, and I'm actually making adjustments to make the experience for the customer even better. And so, you got to put your ego aside and listen to the market. And so I'm trying to do that as much as possible, and I hope that pays off. It's still a huge gamble, but I think that if we have a quality product and a good atmosphere and the customers are happy, Charleston's going to come out, because Charleston likes to eat and drink.
Yeah, and I'm one, certainly followed the beer market and breweries, small breweries here for more than a decade, and I've come to the conclusion that Charleston probably doesn't have enough beer production, or certainly not more than it needs, already. And you coming in, to me, I think there's an opportunity. we're not oversaturated with craft beer. Even though we have a couple of little breweries downtown, there's not a lot of local distribution, out in the markets and things that they have. So that really the whole region here is probably still a little on the low side for craft brewery production, the quantities. So I think you got a shot.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, I would like for us to get into some specifics about Ursus Brewing. I know you sort of mentioned a little bit about that just now, but if you could add to it specifically, how would you describe Ursus in terms of where you hope it will shine? In other words, what do you want craft beer fans right here to know about it?
So one thing that I have as far as like a brewing philosophy and a tapless philosophy, if you will, is I want a good spread on the tap list at all times. I don't want to get oversaturated in one style versus another. I want to be a place where no matter what style of beer you like to drink, hopefully we have something that will accommodate you.
So it won't be an IPA specific brewery or whatever. Yeah.
No, not by a long shot. I will have 2, maybe 3 IPAs on at any given time.
And how many taps total again?
There will be 10 beer
Out of the
taps
10, okay.
out of the 10. I would like to keep it at 2, but every once in a while, if there's a good session or something like that, I might bleed into 3. A classic UK IPA that I do, which is a little different. That will definitely show up at one point or another. But also, I always want to have a Belgian beer on. I always want to have a good German beer on, hopefully a good German lager. I always want to have a UK beer on, and I always want to have an American style beer on. So at least 4 taps will rotate seasonally through those 4 styles. To a broader point outside of beer, I hope that this place is, I keep telling everyone, it's Charleston's living room. I want people to come here and feel comfortable. I want them to relax. I want them to be able to have a conversation bring their friends and family, have a good conversation with the people next to them, or just sit quietly by themselves if they want to, and have some really awesome food and drink and just be taken care of for a little while and be able to leave here feeling maybe hopefully a little bit refreshed, relaxed, and happy.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that it may be equal to the beer quality. You want people to enjoy that atmosphere you offer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I always said we had to hit on all 3 points. The food, the service, and the beer all have to be top notch. And of course, the atmosphere and the comfy chairs.
The bar chairs are comfy.
The bar chairs, I was pleasantly surprised when they arrived.
Yes.
Okay, Jason, let's move on a little bit to talk about the opening beer lineup that's coming here when you're open. And we're recording this right before the grand opening, at least with his own beers here. So tell me a little bit about your 2 initial house brewed beers that you're going to be having with the opening.
Yes, so this coming Saturday is the Saturday before St. Patrick's Day, so that'll be our grand opening, and we have an Irish Stout and an Irish Red that will be on. The Irish Stout we will put on nitro, so it's kind of like our version of Guinness.
Okay. So let's take each of your first 2 beers and give us a little more detailed description of the style, key ingredients, taste characteristics, things like that. We're talking to our beer geeks out here and hopheads and things. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Irish Stout and the Irish Red, they're both typical. I use White Labs Irish ale yeast, so classic dry style Irish style beers. The Stout. It started off a little more roasty than I would like, but as it's cold crash, it's mellowed out and it's blended up quite nicely. And I think it's fairly balanced between the chocolate and the roasty notes. Nice and smooth, fairly low ABV. It only comes in about 3%.
Oh my goodness! But that's very Irish.
Yeah, exactly. It's you can drink this beer all day long, and
definitely not an American style.
No.
Yeah.
And the Irish Red is coming in at about 4.5% ABV. So again, not a crazy high ABV beer, and it has a little bit of like a toasty nuttiness to it, which is kind of nice.
Probably should in a way. I mean, that's of course the malts are going to kind of determine a lot of that, right? I mean,
yes, correct. There's some caramel or crystal and caramel malts in there, and some flake oats to smooth it out.
Well, I love hearing this. It sounds the beer styles for the two opening beers are very traditional and great for the Irish week here we're in, the St. Patrick's Day week. Yeah.
Yes, correct. I try to, when I brew a style of beer, so if I'm going to brew an Irish red or an Irish stout, I try to remain as true to the style as I can. Of course, I want to put my own spin on things to make them a little bit different, but yeah, I try to brew true to style the best that I can. So, our Kolsch is a proper German Kolsch. When we brew a Scotch ale, it'll be a proper Scotch ale.
Well, and I assume too, like the two beers you're having will be augmented with other breweries' beers, and are they going to be all local West Virginia brewery beers?
Yes, correct. We always want to have a mix. Out of the 10 taps, we'll have 4 to 5 of the taps taken over with our own beer eventually, and then the remainder of the taps I'll cycle through local in the state of West Virginia breweries with their beers.
Looking forward, where does the brewing go from here? What new beers are in the pipeline for introduction over the next couple of months? And is there a theme?
The theme is the spread. So we did the Irish Stout and the Irish Red. We just brewed a Kolsch yesterday, and the Kolsch is going to be used in a lot of the kitchen recipes. So anything that's beer battered has beer in it, the Kolsch is going to go in those dishes. It'll also be on tap, of course, for people to enjoy. There's a Scotch ale that's going to be in the mix here coming up soon. I think the next beer we're going to do is a Maibach, so it can lager long enough to come out in May.
Definite theme.
Yep. Try to be seasonal as well. That's what we're trying to do. And a Belgian Wit is also in the pipeline. And the Belgian Wit's very nice. It has coriander, chamomile, and seeds of paradise in it with a sweet orange peel. And so it's a very floral, fragrant, nice Belgian Wit that should come out just when the spring and summertime is trying to make a transition there.
Timing is everything.
There you go.
Well, looking around this main room at the brewery, I mean, it really shows that you guys have done a lot of work redeveloping this building into a good-looking social space all around. Talk about how that came about and some of the major parts of the work that you undertook to transition this space.
Oh my gosh. So I saw this building online and dismissed it and was not even going to look at it. Then the real estate agent, the day before we were going to go look at a bunch of other buildings downtown, said, "Hey, I have this other building. Let's meet there. I just want to show it to you." I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I met her here, and I was like, I recognize this building from somewhere. And then it dawned on me, oh no, this is the building I don't want. She let me inside, and I immediately saw the entire layout. It came to me almost like a movie. It really, really strange, kind of like a surreal experience. And I knew exactly where the brewery was going to go. I knew exactly where the bar was going to go. I knew exactly how the seating was going to go, where the kitchen was going to go. And I said, let's not even bother with the other buildings. This is it. And I proposed the purchase to my partner, Megan. She agreed. We bought the building. And that was in 2024. I think we bought the building in May of 2024. It was March of 2024. I'm sorry. It took me a while to find a contractor and get everything lined up. Construction started May of last year, May 5th. And it has been a huge process. This building was completely vacant. It was completely empty. There was absolutely nothing here.
Hey, Jason, I remember back when it was a pool hall.
Yes, it was the Strand. There were no pool tables left, unfortunately. It was completely empty, but yes, it was the Strand. The only thing that was left was the big cabinet that was behind the bar at the Strand, and that is still here and is used as a piece of decoration right in the front when you first walk in. And
That's cool.
And then we put up an old picture of the front of the building with the sign of the Strand from the 40s.
Nice.
That's hanging right there. And that's going to be eventually a little lounge area and kind of homage to the Strand where we'll put some memorabilia and things like that in there.
That's fun.
Well, I didn't mean to distract you. Go ahead and tell about the development here that you did.
Oh, literally everything we had to do from scratch. The drains weren't even usable. We had to dig up trenches, lay all new drains, all new plumbing, all new electrical. There was literally nothing useful in this building, unfortunately, except the outside of it. It's a 100-year-old building, so you ran into all kinds of issues with
Oh,
that.
I can only imagine,
Yeah.
but it certainly doesn't appear that way sitting here now.
Oh, thanks. Yes, the contractors did an amazing job. And the interior designer, she did an amazing job as well. She helped out a lot. Her hands are in a lot of the design that's here.
Yeah, there are people that come here will see what is the footage of that bar? It's a very nice bar up there.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest bar in Charleston, actually, linear foot-wise. It's over 60 feet long.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell it's big. Wow.
Yes, seats quite a lot of people.
Yeah, there's 20 seats at it. It would be more, but I went with the bigger, comfier seats.
Yes.
And you've got a nice, like a polished kind of concrete or cement-like floor. What do you call that?
It's the original floor that was in the building. All that we did was do a couple of layers of grinding, and then we put epoxy over it.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
looks
Yeah.
great. And then right off the main tap room where the bar is, across from the bar, actually there are, 4 windows or so?
I think it's 5.
5 windows, and you look right into the brewery.
Yep. That's always. I wanted people to be able to see the brewery without having to actually get up and walk in to see it. And then, the brewery, as you can see right now, is very bright. We turn those lights off during service hours, and I have
Sure.
these tiny little spotlights that you can't see that are plugged in on the wall, and they shine up to and just
On the equipment.
barely illuminate the stainless steel. It looks pretty cool.
I bet it does.
Yeah.
That's really neat. Yeah, and then a lot of tables, separate tables with chairs, 4 tops mostly, I guess. And,
Mostly 4 tops with, I think we have 3 6-tops up front.
and
Yep.
what would you say the capacity is here then with seating and all?
I want to say it's around 86, 87, somewhere in
that's
there.
nice.
It is nice and surprising because sitting here, it doesn't seem like it would seat that many. It's just because it's spacious
It's
enough, like you don't feel crowded or like right on top of anybody. So that's really nice. You feel like you've got your room. And yet I'm surprised by that.
That was part of the plan. I hate going to places and feeling crowded. And so how can you relax if everyone's on top of you?
Right.
So we space things out to where it's not so spaced out that it feels empty.
Right.
But at the same time, you don't have everyone on top of you, and you can freely move about and without having to bump into anybody.
And this address is Hale Street. What's the street address again?
207 Hale Street.
Which we'll have in the article that introduces this podcast. But yeah, so right on this street too, and sort of across the street, there are a couple other night spots that you probably will play off of and with in some way, I guess.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Hale House is right across the street.
Yeah.
And of course, they're have their speakeasy, big bourbon place. And so, bourbon and beer go great together.
Right.
So why not try both?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You've got a couple other. Help will make a little center of nightlife over here on Hale Street. You're going to add to it.
Oh, yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. And there's plenty of parking around the area here, certainly street parking as well as parking buildings, which are free after 5 o'clock.
Yes, there's a Courier Street garage, which is just around the corner. There are the parking lots right across the street from Hale Street, which is literally on the next block. And there's a parking garage literally across the street and just a couple buildings down to where, it must be 50 steps away.
Yeah. That's very nice.
That's great. Very exciting.
It is. Yeah, I love how you've fixed this place up. The black ceilings that with the lighting coming down from the ceilings, and just the woodwork around the bar, the furniture choice, the stools look great. There's, like you say, you want them to be comfortable.
We did some research. Well, the contractor did some research, and we invested into sound mitigation as well. That's why it's not super echoey in here. So the black ceiling tiles are actually theater acoustical ceilings to reduce vibrations.
I think that's very important.
All the walls are insulated to reduce vibration. So this place on Friday and Saturday this past week for our soft opening week was very, very crowded. And you could still have a conversation just as we are with the person next to you, and you did not have to yell.
That means a great deal, I think.
Yeah.
And especially since you're focusing on beer as your main attraction, those places need to be where you can actually talk about beer. And I don't like it if every time I go there, there's a loud band or there's so much echoes and whatever in the room because it's not acoustically nice that you can't even hear it. You have to yell to the people next to you.
Yep.
And you can't enjoy beer in that kind of climate. Well, I can't. I'm not saying the next guy can't, but it's like, I can drink it, but I'm not sure I could tell you what I drank because there's so many distractions with yelling and loud sounds.
Absolutely. That is the exact environment I was trying not to do. I was trying to be the opposite of that.
Well, we love you for that, or at least craft beer fans will, I think. Jason, something that I've given quite a bit of thought to recently is craft beer affordability. Given that we're in a time of rising inflation on many goods and ingredients that you have to purchase and things like that, and given that our state is not a wealthy area, West Virginia, one of the lower household income states around, and sometimes, I'm looking as I travel a lot up and down the East Coast, there's a lot of beer pricing that's just gone through the roof, and I guess maybe for a market that's really high end, that's not expensive. But in West Virginia, craft beer can get expensive for the typical people. And so I'm curious, how do you keep Ursus beers affordable to West Virginians? And maybe I should ask, generally, what's your philosophy on beer pricing?
That's a great question. Of course, I can't control pricing after a certain point, correct? Like the ingredients cost whatever they cost. I also like to use good quality ingredients in my beer. I'm not going with the cheapest grain, but I'm also not going with the most expensive grain. This size system as well, given how much grain that we need, it's not a lot. So you don't get price cuts with bulk either. So it's a huge challenge trying to keep your price per pint within the acceptable range that people are willing to pay, around here. I think around Charleston, usually you're going to pay anywhere between probably $6 and $7 for a pint. That's exactly where we're at. Of course, in the Washington, D.C. area, you can pay as much as $9 a pint because it's Washington, D.C., right? Location.
Right.
So I try to do research into grain that is going to have the characteristics that I want as far as flavor, extraction, things like that, but also be affordable enough so I don't have to raise the prices per pint in the brew pub. There's plenty of malt houses out there to where you can price compare and things like that. I think that I've done a pretty good job of getting really good base malt because that's the majority of your beer. So I spend a little more on the base malt. And then for some of the specialty malts, just because you can just use maybe a little bit more, or you can mix and match to get different characteristics. I go with not a lower quality, but maybe a cheaper malt house for that. And that seems to have worked out so far.
Any possibilities looking ahead at maybe buying with other small breweries that aren't in this market so they don't compete directly with you, maybe close by, but still in a different market city, where maybe you could combine orders and get a little price break?
That would be great. The only problem that you run into is logistically of who's going to accept that giant order and who's going to come pick their stuff up and how you're going to get it to them.
Well, yeah, let's hope it's a giant order. I'm just thinking most of our breweries around here are quite small still. Yeah. I just wondered. That's not. Yeah, I understand. You're just getting started. Maybe I'm jumping way ahead.
That is definitely something that I've had conversations with people about.
Yeah, same thing with hops.
Exactly. Yeah, if you can order enough to get the price break, and then everybody just takes whatever what they need, and then you split the price accordingly.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, especially over the past decade, brewery tap rooms have discovered that having good food service is important to bringing customers and keeping regular customers happy. And it's obviously not just about the beer. And you've mentioned your food service, and that was something that you thought that routinely, breweries would fail because they didn't have that option, or it was something they couldn't really bring to the table. So you've previously got into that a little bit, but we haven't talked about specifics, like what can customers expect food-wise? What's your cuisine? What's your style?
Well, if you look at our social media, it says elevated pub fare, and I can't stand that phrase, but I couldn't come up with anything better. But it is, it's wings, it's burgers, it's, all the great fried appetizers, but we also have things that other people don't. We have pierogies, we have poutine, we have amazing pimento cheese. And so and we have good vegetarian options because my partner Megan's a vegetarian. She said, if you're going to do this, you have to have good vegetarian options. So we have really good vegetarian options. And somebody actually asked us the other day about gluten-free. We had to put our heads together, and we actually
Some of what you already offer?
we have a decent spread of gluten-free options
Oh, that's good.
on there already. We didn't mean to do that, but it's there.
So you have variety.
Exactly. So back to your point is it is elevated bar food. It's really good. All the sauces are made in-house. All the meat is not frozen. It's all fresh. It's all refrigerated. And everything that is absolutely possible in that kitchen is made from scratch. I'm not saying everything is made from scratch, but as much as possible is made from scratch, which makes a huge difference. Our beer batter is made in-house. As much as possible is made in-house. And I think that you're going to taste the difference with that. And that was the philosophy as far as the kitchen's concerned I wanted to go with. And I found a chef, Chef Donnie, who completely agreed and has just taken it to a whole nother level.
That's fantastic. I look forward to trying that. In particular, the
come on down.
Variety. Well, in the current market environment, most brewery tap rooms have been expanding the type of beverages that they sell also. Many have added ciders, wines, non-alcoholic beer, craft sodas, and other things that go well beyond the house brewed beer. How will Ursus approach that? I know you've talked about having variety, but in terms of the variety of style.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So going back to the tap list, it's not just my beer, it's other beers out in the state of West Virginia because I can't supply the whole tap list, and I always want to have a variety of beers. We also have ciders on tap. We have domestic bottles. So if you want a big brand domestic bottle beer, we have you covered. We have sodas. We're going to actually this weekend, we're going to start offering a wine selection. So we'll have red wine, white wine. We're going to have a few cocktails on hand. So we don't have a wall of different kinds of liquors where we can make whatever cocktail you want, but we will have a small cocktail list every week. That'll change a little bit as the seasons go on. We will have Moscow mules, Kentucky mules. And so there is a whole spread of beverages here. I want to, again, try to accommodate for as many people as possible. So when you come here, you find something that you like.
What about NA? Will you have NA
We
options?
do have it. We have NA beer.
Oh, will you have NA on tap? I've seen that question come up a lot in beer groups that I see.
That's an interesting question. I have not looked for it on tap. We have it in cans, but I need to see if I can get it on tap around here.
Yeah, as I said, it's definitely a question that keeps popping up.
And seltzers. We have seltzers in cans as well.
Fantastic.
Well, I've heard talk at other breweries downtown Charleston that they're welcoming Ursus Brew Works to town in part because they believe one more craft brewery in downtown will really help cement Charleston's reputation as a top-tier beer destination. We already get, you talk to any of the bar or the brewery bars in town, and they're saying, people stop in off the interstate, because, they're close to an exit here, and, people come in because, hey, they've looked it up before they traveled and they saw there were breweries in this town. So how do you, Jason, and Ursus plan to be a part of that whole brewing community here in downtown Charleston?
Well, first off, thanks to all the breweries here in downtown. Before I even started looking for a location, I went to the Nana Brewery. I went to Fife Street. I went to Bad Shepherd. And I said, I want to open a brewery. Is that going to be a problem? And they said, absolutely not. You need anything, give us a call. And they have held that word up until today. I am indebted to those guys, Ross, Gil, John, Kenny, everybody I've interacted with at these places. Even Short Story, everyone has been amazing and just welcome me with open arms. So thank you if you hear this. And absolutely, I think that Charleston could absolutely benefit from a few more places like this. It's not a saturated market, in my opinion. It could be. I've come from a place where it is absolutely saturated.
Oh, yeah. There are other parts of the country.
Oh, my gosh,
that
yes.
Are, yeah.
You can't throw a rock without hitting a brewery in some places, especially in Washington, D.C., Baltimore, these big cities. how many more can Charleston accommodate? I don't know. But given that this town is now holding tourist events like the regatta and all those kinds of things,
Right.
that increases, at least temporarily, seasonally, your customer base. So
Cycling events.
exactly,
A great
the
example of
cycling
that
event,
as well,
absolutely, yeah. That came. Was the third year this year coming
Yes,
up?
I believe it will be.
Out of 5, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So I absolutely think that Charleston can accommodate a few more places that serve great food and beer and brew in house. Absolutely. And I encourage it, and I hope that so far so good. I think that we're complementing the other places that are in town. It's not competition. It's a high tide lifts all ships, correct? That's
Yes.
the old saying. And that is exactly the mentality of everyone around here. And they've been great.
Yeah, I know overall, and I think we kind of talked about this earlier, that the craft beer penetration in this market is not like it is maybe in a DC or even a Columbus, Ohio. I mean, I still think that we've got a long way to grow.
Absolutely.
With our craft, as not just there's a lot of beer drinkers here, but we don't have as many who are drinking local craft as a lot of markets do because we just don't have enough outlets. And I'm glad you're joining that so that we will have another outlet in downtown. I mean, and then with the other breweries, since they're all now your friends, you think you're planning any co-promotions with them or maybe a collaboration beer for special events? Have you all talked about any of that yet? I know you're just getting underway, but
we have had these conversations. Absolutely. Well, for this coming weekend, St. Patrick's Day weekend, they've looped me into the, I think it's called the Serpents and Stouts Crawl or something like that. So they've looped me into that, which is great. I've talked to them about doing I have this crazy idea that I'm going to go ahead and put out there. And I've talked to the other brewers in town, and they think it's a good idea. So hopefully we'll get around to it this year, where we have those spinny wheels. It's kind of like a Wheel of Fortune kind of wheel. But each section, so there'll be 4 wheels. One will be different malts, one will be different yeast, one will be different hops, and one will be different adjuncts. And since there's 4 breweries in town, we each spin a wheel, and whatever it lands on, we have to brew a beer with that stuff. Right? And then we all brew our version of it, and we get, let's say, like 10, 15, 20% wiggle room with some of the grain bill for additional stuff.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you can, your fermentation temperature and whatever else you want to do outside of that is up to you. But you have to use that base malt. You have to use that hop. You have to use that yeast. You have to use that adjunct. And we all brew a beer with that. And we have a competition, and somehow the public votes, and whoever wins gets a trophy.
Ah,
And whoever
local
has
trophy.
exactly, and they get a trophy, and then whoever has it that year has to add something to the trophy. So then if somebody else gets it the next year, they add something to it. So over the years, the trophy becomes something totally different. You keep adding little knickknacks and figurines or whatever you want to do to it. So hopefully in like 5 years, it just looks totally ridiculous. And you can do it every year. I thought it was a good idea.
As it should be.
They thought it was too. So I would really like that to happen this year. I think it would be awesome.
Yeah, I love that, and I think maybe even enhance it a little bit by saying that there's a charity beneficiary for the sales of that
that'd be great.
beer.
Yeah, percentage of the sales of the beer goes to some kind of charity. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
each time you do it, you pick a new local charity.
That would be great.
I'm big on breweries contributing to their community charities.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%.
It's important. Well, guys, anything else? Jason, do we not cover something that's important here at Ursus Brew Works?
I think we covered pretty much everything. Just let people know that we're just trying to be Charles's living room. Come in, relax, have a beer or a drink of your choice. Great food. This town has welcomed me with open arms. We want to welcome Charleston with open arms.
Well, Charles and I have thoroughly enjoyed our discussion with you this evening, talking about Ursus Brew Works, and obviously we wish you nothing but success and hope to see you in your tap room. So thank you. We appreciate it, and good luck.
Well, thank you very much.
This brings us to the close of another podcast. Remember, you can subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast host. Thank you for listening to West Virginia Beer Roads.
West Virginia Beer Roads is a production of BrilliantStream.com.